and concerns that graduate students engage in and express in their work with us. And I'll talk a little bit about, let me just get rid of this. I'll talk a little bit about this idea of normalizing career conversations around career diversity. I'm also going to share a couple of resources for career exploration and self-knowledge, and then a few career conversation tips as well. So I'm always curious to have the audience engage. And so I'm curious what career conversations you're having with graduate students. And if you aren't having conversations with graduate students, I would just ask you to imagine what you think those might be about. And then I would love folks to unmic and share a couple of thoughts. So what are the conversations that you are having?
So I'll jump in. This is Allison from Yale Divinity School. Our little team here has become kind of by default the career services folks. Now, a lot of the folks at the Div School know where they're going. They're bound for parish ministry, and so their path is pretty well set. There are a growing number of students who aren't sure that that's the path they want to take. And so we're having conversations with folks who are at the Div School because they feel like they need, they want that education, but they're just not sure where they're going to go. So I have conversations with folks who are in various concentrations, either in theology and literature, or theology in the environment, or theology and ethics, who are just trying to figure out now what. They might have been thinking they were going to go on to PhD work. They might have been thinking, they're going to try to pursue a field in publishing, whatever. They're all over the map. And so, I feel like my role is to sit and listen and to try to draw out from them what their interests are, who they are. I wanted to get to know who they are, why they came to Div School to begin with, why they settled on this particular concentration within our academic environment, and then start to explore what that might mean. And I had a very challenging conversation last week where this young man, every question I asked him, all he could say was, I don't know. And so then I knew I had to get on this call.
That's great. You're in the right place, I hope. I think you're in the right place. How about any of the UConn folk who are on? What kinds of conversations are you having with grad students? Anyone want to jump in from UConn?
Hi, this is Rowena. I think along the same lines of uncertainty, I work a lot with students in STEM, and I think a lot of them come in. I'm sorry if you're hearing that. I'm actually driving, but I'm safe. A lot of what they come into grad school thinking that they're going to do one thing, and then they decide that that's not the thing that they think they want to do. And I think a lot of students are drawn to having a conversation with me because I have a STEM background, but I'm not doing the thing that I set out to do. And so they're always seeking me out to have conversations about my career path and the direction that I went in and the steps that I took to get into the career that I'm in right now. And also to conversations about being a bit fearful of talking with their advisors about their change of mind and wanting to know if their advisors would even be able to guide them on the new, uncertain, or not even sure what the next path is that they're thinking of pursuing.
Thank you. So true. And I refer students to you to talk to you as well. So, all right. Well, I also wanted to just kind of give a sense of some of the common career topics that come up for the staff at the Center for Career Development here at UConn. And, you know, it runs the gamut, right? It's things about one's own self-knowledge in terms of, you know, what am I good at? What skills, interests, values do I even have? Then the idea of career exploration, like it can be overwhelming. Like it's great to have the internet, and at the same time, there's so much information produced, right? That it makes it really difficult to kind of sift through and know what's credible and what's not credible. I purposely didn't put this into 2 slides because I wanted to sort of have people see the sort of depth and breadth of what we, the kinds of conversations that we're having and that you may be having. I also indicated which conversations might fall a little bit more into doctoral degree conversations and those which are focused maybe a little bit more for master's degree students. You know, when we get into things like academic job application materials, teaching diversity research statements, that's going to be more specific to doctoral students, applications for postdoc positions, common to doctoral students. And then down at the bottom of this slide, that graduate school piece is most often master's degree students that are thinking about going into a doctoral program. And so we can look at this and we can kind of say, well, you know, there's not that much that's unique for graduate students. But what really is unique is the time frame that individuals have to dive into all of this career content, because most of it needs to be addressed in the time that an individual has. So if I'm working with a +1 student, you know, going from undergrad into a +1 one-year degree, master's degree program, they don't have much time. And if I'm working with a doctoral student who is maybe going to take 5 years, 7 years to complete the doctorate, they're, you know, exiting their program at a very different time, very different place often than they were when they started their program. And I think what's interesting is that our students come in to usually discuss one or more of these topics, but it's really just a point of entry. And I think some of you have already discovered that, right? That it's a point of entry. They come in and say, oh, I want help on a CV, or I'd like some help thinking about my skills and interests, but like that's just how they're kind of getting into have the conversation. And then there's a whole host of concerns that we're also usually working with the student on. So again, I'm going to pause and I'm going to invite you either through experience or what you imagine what some of the common career concerns are expressed by grad students. And you touched upon those a little bit, but let's see if we can tease out some others. So common career concerns.
I think for some of our students, because this is a kind of an odd career choice or academic road, that they feel like a degree from a divinity school is not going to get them anywhere, you know. So I think that's really kind of frightening for them.
So concerns about the what next, fearful that the kind of degree they have won't get them to whatever the what next is. Yeah. What else comes to mind for other people on the webinar? Anyone else? All right, well, I'll share. Again, these are kind of the more common career concerns that are expressed by graduate students. And, again, you may look at them and say, oh, it's not that different than maybe undergraduates, or it's not that different from master's degree to doctoral. And, I would say there's definitely some truth in that. In terms of the kinds of concerns, there's always the, I don't know what I'm qualified to do. That piece about I haven't told my advisor that I'm looking for something beyond academia, a lot of fear around that. I have that feeling of having no experience, having never applied to a job before. This also surfaces this idea that a PI or an advisor may not give a student permission or time. There's this, power dynamic in this relationship where a principal investigator or an advisor may not give an individual time to do an internship, when maybe an internship is really something that could help them clarify their career goals. I have no experience interviewing. I have to stay in a specific location. For the master's degree students, a lot surfaces around how can I be starting a job search now? I haven't even really, I gotten through the first semester of my courses, but certainly anyone on a 12-month program needs to start now in the first, couple of months, just because we know what it takes to fully engage in one's career preparation and also job search. Some additional concerns, things like I don't know where to find jobs. With doctoral students, I have a fair number of students who recognize they don't want to go into academia. They've thoroughly enjoyed their PhD program, their doctoral program, but they just, they either don't want to do the research or the teaching or the publishing or whatever it might be. I see students that come in and say, I want to go into academia, but there aren't any jobs, or the jobs are in Wyoming and I need to stay in Connecticut, that kind of dynamic. Pressures to support family, international students seeking sponsorship. I see a little bit of the I want to leave my degree program or switch. I see that more with doctoral students. I put that in bold, and a little less with master's degree students, in part because many of the master's degree programs do have kind of clear pathways to careers, plural, than some of the doctoral degree programs. I don't have access to a network, comes up quite a bit with international students and with first gen students. And then no one's going to hire me. I've gone straight through. I've only ever done college is usually what they share. Any thoughts or reactions to some of these concerns? And you can certainly unmic if you wish. And, it's never just one concern. Students are showing up with a lot of these at the same time. All right, so some degree of career diversity has always existed, like this need to, find and explore a range of careers. And I'm going to focus on doctoral students at the moment. When we look at this line graph, the top line here is in red. Those are the doctorates awarded. And then down at the base, we see the faculty positions available. And, for many of the doctoral programs, the kind of measure of a successful outcome has been to pursue a faculty roles. So there's a lot of work right now on reimagining the PhD, and the kind of the career diversity really emerges when there are personal factors that are driving the need for individuals to pursue a range of career options, and then also where a labor market can't accommodate, and in this case, it can't accommodate the number of doctorates and the faculty job openings. Factors that drive career diversity for doctoral students, and again, I think we can look to some degree at master's degree students, but definitely these ideas of never intending to pursue academia. They come in, they really never intended to pursue academia, but the department's measure of success is that students do pursue positions in faculty roles. Students evolve in the doctoral program 5-7 years. So, I mean, think how much you've changed in 5-7 years. So things like fit or interest change over time. That labor market demand that I already addressed, geographic needs and constraints. More recently in my work, I've heard a lot from doctoral students who are making decisions because they have families, and they have families here in Connecticut, and they have no desire to uproot their families. That's clearly the driving value for them. And so they're going to stay here as opposed to seek out other opportunities in other parts of the country. Financial need comes into play. Often jobs outside of academia pay more, and the trajectory to increase one's salary is a lot quicker than within an academic environment. Media doom and gloom has its role in here in terms of, the bad news about faculty jobs, the bad news about this career or that career. Students are definitely very aware of whatever's kind of being fed to them. Partner and family commitments. I was working with a student last week, and her partner is in Rhode Island. She had a potential for a job in California, and she said, no, it's really important that we stay here. And so she made a decision not to take that job. And then there's just plain old burnout, while you're in your program or while you're in it over a period of time. The whole conversation about career diversity is a national conversation. I'm not going to go into detail here, but you'll have access to the recording. The Association of American Universities and then also the Council of Graduate Schools is really, they're focusing a number of pilot initiatives on encouraging data transparency and also outcomes transparency for graduate students, so that graduate students can really see the full array of career and career pathways that individuals go into. So I
have a question.
Sure.
In the chat.
Oh, okay.
And this is about the topics that you had shared a few minutes ago. Do you see differences in some of these topics from STEM versus non-STEM students, especially around not wanting to go into academia? And that was from Ashley.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, I think there are definitely STEM fields, and there are departments at UConn that have more of a trajectory to, let's say, industry. And there just isn't the expectation. Electrical engineering is not, thinking that their PhDs are probably going to, go into faculty roles. Some will, but it's not like a driving force for that department. So I think it's, it's variable with both the culture of the department that students reside in, right? And then if just like traditionally over time, it's just been more accepted that people do go into diverse careers. I also think that some of the STEM fields have, again, you might say like more direct pathways into career fields or types of industry. So in that case, you know, again, we may see more of that career diversity, where in maybe the humanities, that hasn't translated, some of those fields haven't translated over time as being connected to specific industries. And so therefore there may be like more institutional culture around going into faculty roles. So it's kind of a both and. It's not definitive really either way. It's a good question for sure. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to jump into some resources that we can use when we're working with students. These are resources to help them in their self-exploration, but also help them in you know, looking at diverse careers and the intersection of their skills and values and interests in some of those careers. And I think when I'm working with faculty, especially, faculty will say to me, like, I don't know what's out there. Like, how can I know what's out there? And, you know, here I am, a career professional, and I have days where I'm like, I don't know what's out there because there's so much out there, right? So we don't have to be the experts. We don't have to have all of the information. We can't possibly know everything. The students can't possibly know anything, but we can provide them with some resources to support really their self-exploration and their career exploration and career knowledge. So there are a number of platforms out there. I'm going to touch upon 3: Imagine PhD, MyIDP, and Focus 2, and I'm literally going to pop into them, just give you a feel for kind of the look and feel of how they're set up, the 1 or 2 cool things that I think each of them offers. All right, so let's hope that this works nicely. And Nancy, can you see Imagine PhD? Excellent. It's a good day. All right, so Imagine PhD for the UConn folk on the call. If you go to the Center for Career Development's website, there's a tab that says who do we serve. There's a grad student and postdoc tab within the drop-down menu. And you can get to all of these resources and lots of other dedicated resources for graduate students and postdocs. This is a free tool. It was created for graduate students by graduate students. It was an initiative of the Graduate Career Consortium. All right. So what I like about this is that while it was created for PhDs, it also has great information for any graduate student. Like most of the assessment tools or self-exploration tools, it has this assessment section, and there's some questions around interests, skills, and values. So it's nice. The values-driven piece on this is really nice. I like this tool for that purpose. And then it has a very excellent resources section, and it divides its resources into what it calls job family resources. And within the job families, so you'll see a lot of different job families, and this is for social sciences and humanities primarily. So this tool, social sciences and humanities. Each of the job families is organized in the same way. So I'm just going to show you one. I'm just going to pick advocacy today. And I can see like, oh, just a blurb about what advocacy is. And then I can see some job titles, which can be really useful to our students, just to kind of be thinking like, oh, job titles. Now I could go do a search on job titles and see what kinds of opportunities are available under job titles. And I see this National Council of Churches here and Higher Education Quality Council of Ontario. So it just gives a sampling. And then each of the job families has 4 quadrants of information. It has an explore section. And the explore section has like general, some sample job descriptions. It has some job simulations where people can actually do a little like assignment to get a feel for what some of the primary work might be within advocacy. So I know that like faculty can sometimes build actually a course assignment around some of this, or you could do a career workshop around some of the job simulations. It's a fun tool. So there's a bunch of job simulations, and then there's some Q&A profiles of individuals who are either in the field or have transitioned from one field to another field. And then there's information about like professional associations, you know, like any kinds of things that would help someone grasp, you know, how to go about exploring this area of advocacy. Let's see if this brings me, yeah, great. Then there's a build skills section, which again, we'll see the simulations in there. We'll also see things like about best practices. Sometimes there's little like mini courses that show up in here as well. And connect. If there are like LinkedIn groups will be identified here. Here's a LinkedIn group, government relations. Online communities for like the DevX community, global development work community, member directories and organizations. So, you know, great resources to help people actually connect with others that care about some of the same things. And then the apply quadrant has information about like any sort of niche kind of job boards. See a lot of job boards in this one. So it varies. Some of the other job families might have something a little bit different in here, but you can almost be guaranteed that there'll be job boards. And then there's usually some sort of feed of jobs on the page as well. It's a little uneven. You know, sometimes I'll read a job that's on there and I'll be like, that's a stretch that's advocacy. But they do try to pull out job postings as well. And then within here, you can like, the students can design like a career plan. There's like pre-populated checklists of all different career tasks. I encourage you, it's a free tool. I encourage you to check it out and use it yourself just to fully understand the capacity of it, and then share with any of the students that would be in social sciences or humanities. And I do know of STEM people that like to use this tool as well. It's just that it's not perhaps as directly related. So that is Imagine PhD. I'm just going to minimize that. This next tool is also a free tool, and it is, I need to move that one onto my screen. This is MyIDP. It is also a free tool. You won't be surprised. It has the skills, the interests, and the values. However, the values section here isn't really assessment. There's more of like a lot of conversation about values and how, you know, you might match skills and interests in a work setting, but then the values of that work setting might actually be variable, right, from place to place. So it approaches values a little differently. This is for scientists. They have a good little section here called Consider the Career Fit. And I can see what my career matches are based on the skills and interests. And I can see how kind of deeply I matched on the skills. And if I click here, I can see the different skills and how I matched. And then the other part here that I like is read about careers, where I can go into resources and then I can read more. These have been assembled in different ways. Sometimes it's articles, sometimes it's a TED Talk, sometimes it's a book. Again, I can access some of the links to the landing pages of professional societies. It too has a career planning component. And then you can also, it's made, this tool is really made to be utilized in conjunction with like an advisor or a mentor. It's also effective to use just as an individual, but there is this mentoring team piece here where people can identify a mentor and there are tasks associated with meeting with mentors and whatnot. So just like, you know, another good tool, free tool. You could build programs around it if you're in a career sort of professional kind of space. You can certainly refer students to it. And I think what I found is just telling students about a tool is not as useful as actually like, let me show you, or let me run a 20-minute demo for a group of students, have them with their technology, playing with, the platform. I can be sitting, I can be circulating, I can be there for any questions, but kind of the, oh, go use this, neat resource is often not the best way to engage students. It's really that more shoulder to shoulder, let me show you this, that helps them feel comfortable and confident diving into it as well. And all of these produce kind of report kinds of things and whatnot. And then the last one, yeah.
Another question.
Okay, thanks for monitoring.
Sure. Rowena asked if any of the sites that you're sharing here have a back end that tells us how many UConn students are using them. And if not, do we have a sense of how useful the resources are just from our coaching and integrating with students?
Good question. So we really don't have back-end admin data on the two that I just showed you. Like I could find out through Imagine PhD, like probably how many unique visitors there were, but it's not something that they just produce once a month for us to all look at. But I know the creators, so I think that I could ask them for that information. Anecdotally, I utilize these tools in my coaching, with grad students. And so anecdotally, I can say that, number one, it can confirm what individuals already think. And there's like a good feeling sometimes when things are confirmed. It can open up people's ideas about the potential for what they can do. Instead of seeing just a single career, they realize that, oh, these skills show up in all these kinds of careers. I have those skills. So, what do I want to do next to leverage my ability to enter one or more of those careers? So, definitely these tools help in those two ways. And they also give students a vocabulary to talk about themselves, which, as we know, is really important, whether you're creating a CV or a resume or, heading into an interview. The tools are really effective in giving students the vocabulary to to talk about themselves, and then to think about examples that showcase whatever skills they have, experience, knowledge, training, and so forth. So much more anecdotally. Focus 2, and I'm going to be really transparent. In all honesty, I don't use Focus 2 as much as the other 2 tools, because I largely work with doctoral students. Oh, this is always fun. I just need to pop into Focus 2. It loves to kick me out. So let me just see. Hopefully I can get in. I'm in. Let me just get to the student site. Focus 2 has similar features, and I'm going to move it up onto my other screen. Yeah, so Focus 2 does have similar features. You can see values, skills. Let me just move it here. They have some interesting things like leisure assessment and personality assessment as well. This is very integrated with UConn and UConn majors, largely at the undergraduate level. I'm waiting for Nancy to shake her head to confirm that. Yeah. When I do use it, I use it more with master's degree students. The other thing that's really nice about this tool is this Am I Career Ready feature. And this is based on NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, career readiness competency skills. And what students can do when they go in there are 8 competencies. They can go in and they can self-report their proficiency of each of the competencies. And there's some examples so the students can judge whether their proficiency is high or needs improvement. And then what's wonderful at UConn is that we've had a team within the office that has customized some of the content in the Am I Career Ready section to help students think about, wow, here are some ways inside, outside the classroom. Here are some ways inside and outside of UConn where I can either enhance or build my competencies. So actually with the Am I Career Ready tool within Focus 2, I'll be using it a lot more with the graduate students that I work with. So those are the 3 tools. Let me go out of here. Just going to advance my slide. So really, as we think about career conversations with graduate students, we want to honor their lived experiences. We want to help them unpack all of the concerns that they have and different concerns, normalizing that too, like concerns ebb and flow, new concerns arise, and create an environment that really helps them to both explore and confirm their career possibilities, and hopefully do so early enough that they have time to work toward being the most competitive candidate. Like when I work with students, I always say to them, I see my role as helping you to be the kind of candidate that you want to be for whatever a position might be. And usually they want to be the most competitive candidate. So I've included a few conversation starters here to really normalize the idea of career diversity. These might be conversations that an individual has, like starters for an individual with a student. It might be a department adopting some of these ways of speaking. So this idea of like, oh, we have students who successfully pursue all types of careers. Student A is doing this and student B is doing this, and what are your career interests? So not these assumptions that because you're accounting or because you're chemical engineering or because you're philosophy that you're going to do A and B. Just Another approach can be, it's really important to me to be supportive of my students' goals. What are you thinking you will pursue for your first job, and how can I be of help? Sometimes people don't know enough to know how you can be of help, but sometimes they will. They'll say, look, I have no clue about networking, or I've heard I need to network. I don't know how to do that. Sometimes sharing one's own career trajectory can be useful. Like, I chose higher ed because I love XYZ, or I have XYZ skills, or I value XYZ in my work environment. What do you enjoy doing? For the UConn folks that are on, definitely referring students to those career exploration resources. Again, if you have time, side by side, open up, share what you think's cool about that resource. And chances are they'll be more likely to engage. Then that idea of telling me about the things you most enjoy inside and outside of your degree program. A lot of the doctoral students I work with come in, I have the PhD, or I'm getting the PhD. We look at some job postings, and the PhD is only one bullet point on that job posting. So that opens up some conversation about all the other skills and knowledge that's valued, and experiences that are valued by employers. And then that sort of, chances are some of these things can be applied to future positions and various careers. So, sometimes we have to be really intentional in our career conversation starters, just to make sure that we aren't projecting, some assumptions about the individual and maybe where they're at. This next slide, I'm not going to go into really with any detail, other than I do want to acknowledge that there are some really prevalent challenges that graduate students have. Would undergraduates also be raising a family? Sure, they may be. Do undergraduate students have debt? Sure. And at the same time, like, these can be amplified for graduate students, and then they can also be amplified for individuals from marginalized groups. So this isn't here so much for conversation as just to have this awareness always in the work that we do. And then lastly, oops. Not quite lastly, I have some general tips for career conversations, avoiding the plan B choice, reinforcing that there can be many best options, in part because so many skills show up in so many different types of careers, and employers value all sorts of experiences. If you're working with doctoral students, refrain from kind of that other, alt-ac, or not, you want to do something that's non-academic, right? Kind of refrain from that language. Yale's career office actually has a whole piece on like terms to refrain from when talking to doctoral students. Read about cultural norms for career decisions, asking students what factors are contributing or influencing their career decisions. I may have my model for how career decisions are made, but culturally that might not fit with someone else's model, and we have to honor someone else's model. Ask open-ended questions. Beware of unintentional career disparagement. If you were to say something like, well, all of my students end up going into X, that's kind of saying, oh, well, what you're thinking really isn't worthwhile, right? Or, projecting, I think you should go into X. Or even saying something like dismissive, I have no idea about that career. You'll have to figure that out. That can also feel to someone that it's being devalued, right? So career disparagement can show up just unintentionally in the work that we each do. listen and share back, reframe quitting to making a decision to leave the program based on needs and new realizations, like help the student change the narrative that they have from quitting to making a decision because. And then, the other part here is just really, how do you like to learn new things? We are asking our students to learn in this process of self-exploration and career preparation. So, what are some of their preferences? I was working with a student this morning and I said, so tell me about how you like to learn new things. And she said, I like to learn by doing. And the focus of our session was largely on internships. I had another student, it was last week, who said, oh, I have to read everything first, right? So we want to provide the kind of learning and access to information in the ways that our students find most useful. So now I'm really at the end. I'd like to invite additional conversation and questions, and then I guess some people may have received an email, the UConn individuals may have received an email inviting you to join as a career champion and be part of this Career Everywhere culture that we have here. So I hope that you certainly join in, and I'd be happy for any questions.
So I do have another question in the chat.
Okay.
And it's with COVID, I know that many job search processes are completely online. What are some of the challenges in preparing students for this new way of going through a job search?
Okay. So I'm trying to kind of figure out which aspect of this. I'm wondering if Rowena is still available, because is this more about like the interviewing piece? Or
Yeah,
is it...
sure. I was just curious, like, does career advising look any different now that, as I said, a lot of jobs are doing things completely virtual. Yeah. So are there any differences in advising students on the way they approach their interviews, how they prepare for their interviews? What has changed about advising them through the current climate?
Great question. I think a lot of the strong practices that we're already advising students in terms of, let's say I'll take interviewing, for example, strong interviewing preparation kind of looks the same, whether that interview is going to be virtual or in person, but then there can be a greater emphasis on things like, one's technology and one's setup of their space. We know that some of the artificial intelligence interviewing systems, so like sometimes people have a first round interview with nobody but a piece of technology. We know that those pieces of technology can be doing things like scanning an individual's room and background to pick up additional information about the person. So if I have a line of beer cans behind me when I'm interviewing, that could be problematic. So there's, some training around those kinds of things, really the use of artificial intelligence, applicant tracking systems, things like that. They've been in existence, whether it's been virtual or not. I always share with students that sometimes for many students, it being virtual, let's think about the positives of that. And, they pretty easily fall into things like, oh, I can easily have my CV out in front of me, or I can have that list of the people that I'm interviewing with out in front of me, or I can even have some key pieces of information to remind me about an experience that, you know, I want to be sure I mention if they ask me a question about, tell me about a time you collaborated. So I think for a lot of students, you know, there are definite advantages. For some students, it can really equalize the interviewing experience. For other students, it may not equalize it if they don't have like a comfortable space and technology, comfortable space to be in and technology to use. So there are definitely conversations about kind of this, you know, online world. And then we have blog posts and things on our website about tips for virtual interviews, tips for effectively working remotely. We have lots of good blog posts in our affinity community and career community pages on our website. Thanks. Anyone else?
I'll ask my question if no one else has another question. I'm just, everybody, of course, is sort of feeling burnt out. So I'm wondering how is this affecting graduate students, and actually, is it motivating them to leave faster in terms of, you know, just feeling like I need a change, like I'm feeling burnt out and I need to like move on and with my career. So let me try to wrap this up. Or is it a case where they're sort of like, I'm not in a hurry to get into the job market, so I hope I can stay here longer. So I'm just curious, like, what's the temperature you're getting on that?
Yeah, I don't have data, and I would love to have data on that, but I don't. So again, I'll just speak to some of my experiences. I would say that a lot of, and again, it's mostly doctoral students for me, but a lot of the doctoral students have found it really hard to get the work done that they need to get done. They may be highly motivated for any number of reasons, but, you know, because the place and space of their work has changed so much, they're often finding it really hard to meet some of the time to completion goals. So I have seen that. I've seen other students that have just loved that, you know, they've been able to be online and kind of not have to spend time here and there, and, you know, they're moving at light speed. So again, I think it's really variable to the individual's, you know, situation. So much is dependent on the advisor with the doctoral program as well. It's been all over the place. I honestly, I'm someone who spends quite a bit of time kind of looking for patterns, and I haven't seen any like solid trends or patterns where I can say, oh yeah, you know, people are flying through or people are faltering. But I would say I experience more people that are just sharing, like you say, tired, you know, kind of plugging along. Yeah.
Thank you. So, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say we should look for some national data on that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question for sure. We did notice that with our undergraduates in our first destination reporting that I don't remember how much bigger of a percentage, but it was at least 5 to 7% more are going on to graduate school right away with, you know, and not going looking for employment. So you know, it's definitely interesting to see that information. So I want to thank all of you for being here, and I want to thank Kay for your very interesting information that you shared and the conversation that you led. We will be sending a follow-up email to all the attendees. So if you do have any questions, you can certainly let us know, and we can get any additional questions answered. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Alrighty. Be well.